The basic advice given by the Buddha in all his discourses for 45 years is to mind the mind, to never mind, and end the mind. Enlightenment is end in the mind. It is the end of samsara, or ending samsara. The word samsara in the Buddha's language called Pali is used to denote our existence in space and time in this universe. But even a Buddha with his superhuman eye or the insight called the Buddha eye or the Buddha insight, Buddha Jnana, cannot see the beginning of our existence in space and time. In number of sutras, discourses, for example, in 3 discourses or sutras in the Samyukta Nikaya of the Buddhist canonical literature, there are 3 discourses named, one Tinakatta Sutta in the same Samyukta Nikaya, another discourse called Gaddula Baddha Sutta, and another discourse called Duggatta Sutta. Buddha declared in his own words, Anamataggo ayang sansaro. He said, he is addressing the bhikkhus. Anamataggo ayang bhikkhave sansaro pubbha koti napanyayati. Here, napanyayati, he himself cannot see and establish. Pubbha koti, the beginning of samsara, our existence as separate entities called soul. Anamataggo, there is no ending. He cannot, even a Buddha which is superhuman, Buddha insight, cannot see the beginning of our existence in the samsara, in space and time. Our existence in samsara is not our physical existence, not our body. In every birth till death, the body continues changing. But that body is not repeated in the next birth. But our mind continues. Mind is not a fixed entity. It is not static. It is dynamic. Mind is not a thing, but our thinking process. Thinking and feeling. Thought process. It is our thought process that has continued from its very beginning in space and time into the present moment, and is going to continue in our future lives, in our future existence. Buddha's technique is to end that existence. existence of the mental process. Mental process means the thinking process. In its first period of joy after enlightenment, called Piti Vakka, it is found in the Dhammapada, Buddha said, at his enlightenment, his mind ceased to function, ceased to be active. Visankara gatan citta. Sankara means thoughts. Thought formation ceased at the enlightenment. That is the ending of the mind. After enlightenment, there is no thinking, but there is sensation. Sensation means there is the awareness. They can see without thinking. In our case, we are always thinking and we cannot stop our thinking process. In explaining the suffering we undergo due to our thinking, Buddha in his very first discourse called Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta said, Sankittena pancha upadanakkhandhapi dukkha. Upadanakkhandha means the 5 aspects of a thought. How it begins and how it ends. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. Every thought is initiated by the stimulation of a sense organ, and that is called rupa. The word rupa is used to denote pictures and images. But here, rupatitiko bhikkave rupam, it means stimulation of sense organs. Sense organs are stimulated by external objects. The eye is stimulated by the different images around us, different pictures, different formation, different forms. That is what we call, we can see them. We can see things. Things outside us stimulate our eye. The sounds outside us stimulate our ear. Smells stimulates our nose. Different taste stimulates our tongue. Different objects that we touch stimulate our skin, our body. And different mental formations, mental objects formed in the mind stimulate our mind. When the mind is stimulated by an image that is really initiated by the stimulation of sense organs, we start thinking. And then thinking force ultimately ends in our stream of consciousness called vijnana. Thoughts are flowing in our mind one after the other in a never-ending process. It is the ending of this thought process that the Buddha said, Visankara gatan cittang, in his first paean of joy. Our thinking has double sides. It is the most beneficial power we have, the thinking process. It is the greatest friend we have. Our mind is our greatest friend, as well as our worst enemy. according to the Buddha. Because it is this thinking process that creates the forces called karma, creative activity, for us to continue life after life. Therefore, to end living hereafter, for cessation of the samsara, the existence, we have to stop thinking. To stop thinking, the advice given by the Buddha is to mind the mind. Mind the mind means, for example, we can say, beware of the mind, because the mind can harm you. Mind can harm you by encouraging you to do both good and bad. If you do bad, your existence continue in the bad world, in hells. If you do good, with that power of the goodness that you do, your life continues in the good worlds or heavens, or in the even in the human world. Both good and bad deeds that we do are prompted by our mind. Therefore, the entire sum total of the activities of our mind leads us to live life after life. The mind, as it has continued for a period that your Buddha cannot see, it has gathered a great power, mighty power to continue. Habitually, it is thinking, and thinking leads is to live even in the future. Thinking is the process as well as the food of our mind, of our existence. We live in this space and time called samsara due to our thinking. That is why it said the thinking process called Sankittena Panchupadana Kandapi Dukkha. Dukkha is translated into English as suffering. It is not only suffering. Thinking brings us both pleasures and pains, not only suffering. When there are pleasures brought by thinking, we get attached with them. That very attachment becomes the cause of our existence in samsara. When thinking brings pain, that also hatred leads to the continuation of our existence in samsara. Therefore, according to the advice of the Buddha, to end samsara, to end the existence in space and time, we have to be aware of our mind. And beware of our mind, that is the advice of the Buddha. Beware the dog. There are boats in certain bungalows, certain houses at the gate. Beware of the dog. Buddha's advice is beware of the mind, because it can be harmful to you. Though it creates both pains and pleasures. Beware of it, pay attention. But when you pay attention, there's a self in it. The Buddha's advice is not paying attention deliberately, being sensitive, being aware, not deliberately, but indeliberately. Just be aware of sensation. That is the basic advice given by the Buddha to an ascetic called Bahya in Bahya Sutta. Buddha said, the shortest cut to end the existence in samsara and attain nirvana and end the samsara, the existence, is just to be aware. Ditte dittamattang, when you see, be aware that you have seen, but don't think about what you see. Sute sutamattang bhavisati. When you hear, don't think of what you hear, but just be aware. Mute mutamattam bhavisati. Even other sense organs become aware. The nose, the tongue, the body, just be aware. When the mind becomes aware, viññāte viññātamattam bhavisati. That is the shortest advice given by the Buddha for Bahya to be enlightened within few seconds by listening to it and understanding or realizing the truth of the teaching. That is, be aware of your mind. Of your mind means what you become conscious of. Being conscious is a natural activity. Thinking is a deliberate activity. Don't think, just be aware. The basic awareness Buddha has practiced according to the reports in the Buddhist canon is to be aware of his own in and out breathing. When he became aware of his in and out breathing, breathing comes in, goes out, comes in, goes out. Breathing is born to decay and die. Then we realize everything is born to decay and die. Nothing can be retained. No need to expel anything. They get expelled by themselves. Everything vanishes after it comes into being. We call Shanabhangur instantly. That is why the Greek philosopher who lived in the 5th century BC said, no one can step into the same river twice. Because everything, even our body, even our mind, everything is changing. Every atom is changing every moment. Every subatomical, because subatomical particles are moving around the atom. Electrons are moving. Quarks are moving. Neutrons and protons are rotating. They are always active. That is why Buddha said, the basic nature of the universe is anicchata, universal dynamism. What we call energy is not a thing, but an activity. It is identified, this universal energy, the universal activity, as a creativity. And they identify in some religions as a creator God. There is no God, but there is creation. There is no creative God, but there is a creativity in the universe, as Buddha has seen. Because of that creative power called energy, everything is changing. Titassa anyatatta bhavisati. That is what happened to everything. A thought is born to decay and die. Jati, jara, marana. Birth, decay and death can be seen in every thought. One can be aware of that process because you are not doing it. That is what is happening inside you as well as outside you. When you realize everything is born to decay and die, you refrain from being attached to anything or being resentful to anything. Because you know the reality of things, that everything is born to decay and die. Knowing the reality. Knowing the reality. When you don't know the reality, it's called ignorance and referred to in Pali as moha. When you attach to something, thinking it is going to exist, it's called raga. When you resent something that you don't like, it is called dosa. Raga, dosa, and moha are three aspects of our mental process. With some thoughts, we get attached to certain things. With some other thoughts, we resent certain things. And with some form of thinking, we are illusion, we are delusion, and we become ignorant of the reality of things. It is due to this delusion we get attached to things and we resent things, not knowing that they are born to decay and die. Love can be there, but it cannot last long. It has a beginning, it has a decay, a degeneration, and there's a death. So is hatred. That is the nature of every event in this particular universe. When you realize that, your mind becomes free from attachment, free from raga. Raga is attachment. Free from raga means vita ragi. Free from resentment means vita dosi. Dosa or dvesha in Sanskrit means resentment. Free from ignorance, vita mohi. Moha is ignorance. Free from mohi means you realize the reality of things. What is the basic reality of things? Anicchata, dukkhata, anattata. Everything is dynamic and changing and cannot retain a permanent identity, permanent form. That is called anattata. Transformation is the basic activity of the universal energy. Energy is an activity, creativity or dynamism. Energy is dynamic. Because of the universal energy, dynamic energy, things are getting transformed every moment. As they are getting transformed every moment, nothing can retain a permanent identity. That is why Heraclitus, the Greek philosopher, said, no one can step into the same river twice. Once you realize this basic nature, not outside you can see, you have to realize it within yourself. We cannot know anything outside us in its true nature, because we know things outside us or inside us through our sense organs. Their capacity is limited. Our eyesight is limited. Our sound, that hearing capacity is limited. Our nose capacity, we cannot smell what even a dog can smell. We cannot hear many things that the animals can hear, or we cannot see many things that certain animals can see, because our eyesight is limited. That is why I need binoculars. That is why we need special glasses to see things that are small. This means our sense organs are limited, and with that capacity, limited capacity, we don't know the real nature of things outside us. We know only what is created by the sense organs in our mind. Mind is a screen, like the screen of a computer, like the screen of a cinema hall. Pictures appear. They are mental images. Images are not realities. They are created by the mind. Creation of mental images is called sankhara. Enlightenment means freedom from mental creation. That can be done by minding the mind, being careful of the mind. To never mind is take things as they are. In Buddha's language, that is called yatha labha or yatha bhuta jnana dasana, seeing things as they are. Yatha labha santushti, accepting things as they are. The reality, the basic reality of things. The basic reality seen by the Buddha is that everything is dynamic, in a state of transformation, without retaining a permanent identity. Anicca, dukkha, anatta. And with that realization, once we really realize it, we do not know the world outside us, but only the world created by our sense organs in our mind. That is why Buddha says in the Rohitassa Sutta, the entire world that we know is within our 1 fathom body, within our body of 6 feet. Body means our set of sense organs. All our sense organs are in our body. And sense organs create the world that we know. And those creations are called thought formations, mental formations. Enlightenment is ending the illusions called mental formation, mental images. Then without looking at things, the enlightened mind can see through things. They see the reality of things as they are. But we imagine things to be good or bad. Things we think that we can like, or things that we dislike, or things that we can ignore. Enlightened mind are in the path to enlighten, nothing is ignored. Just be aware. Just be aware means aware of your mind. Be aware, and the mind is creating a mental image. That image is born to decay and die, it cannot be retained. No love can retain forever, no hatred can retain forever, no ignorance can be retained forever. That is the basic nature of our mind. Therefore, Buddha advises us, mind the mind. Buddhist meditation is being aware of the mental process. For example, one may be aware of one's own breathing. It is not breathing that you become aware, you become aware of the mental image of the breathing. The mind is aware of the mental image. No physical organs can see the breathing process. But when it happens, a mental image is formed in the mind. The wind coming through the nose, going out of the nose. It comes and it goes. Then one realizes everything, even in the mind, a thought comes, a thought goes. That is the mental process. And we are illusioned by the mental formation. We realize it. And get your realization. It's not knowing. We know through, you have knowledge, you have read, you have heard, everything is changing. That is knowledge. Idea. You have an idea. But this is not idea. You are seeing for yourself. And every change is happening inside your mind. Then when you become aware of the mind, you see things, the mental formations that we experience. We can experience nothing other than mental formations. What you see as a picture, as an object, is not the real object that we experience. We experience only the mental image. The sound, we experience only the mental image of the sound created by the ear. Then you realize we experience nothing but illusions, mental formations that get automatically formed. We are not forming it. Sakkaya Ditthi means the idea that we are thinking ceases. There is a thinking process. And you become aware of it. That awareness ultimately leads to enlightenment. Awareness remains after enlightenment until the final passing away, but the thinking process ceases, as said by the Buddha in his first paean of joy, visankara gatan citta. But we, before enlightenment, have to experience mental formations, and we can only be aware that they are illusions. Then we are not moved by those illusions. Normally, our likes and dislikes, our hatred, our attachments, our attractions are mental creations. Once you realize the real nature of things, your mind stops thinking, the awareness remains, accepting, seeing things as they are and accepting things as they are. What is the nature of seeing things as they are? That everything is bound to decay and there's no point in getting attached to such changing things, and there's no point in resenting it, and you remain with a purified mind. Purification of the mind means ending the mind. Once you purify the mind, bit by bit, it becomes so pure, there is no mind but there is only purity. Sachitta pariyodapana. First, Sabba Papasa Karana, that is the basic advice of all Buddhas. You refrain from moved by bad thoughts, harmful thoughts. Kusala Supasampada, you remain with good thoughts. The bad thoughts have to disappear. Good thoughts have to retain because they do good to yourself and to others. And ultimately, you have to end the good thoughts. Sachitta pariyodapanang, free the mind from thinking process. That is called ceto vimukti, freedom from thinking, freedom from the mind. Mind the mind. To never mind, that means not to think of anything that you become aware, and to end the mind, to end the thinking process. Visankara gatan cittang, that is nothing but enlightenment.